gives me great pleasure to comment our proposed sessional paper on foreign policy of the Republic of Kenya 2025. I think it is the second one. The first one we had published was around 2014. Until then, we didn't have any particular policy document regulating our foreign policy or international relations. Honorable Speaker, when I got this document, I first quickly took a good look, and my expectation was that I would see a certain set of goals. What really defines the anchor of our foreign policy, or how we intend to conduct our foreign relations. And I also took time to look at what other countries have done. For example, Americans were among the very first in 1918, when President Woodrow Wilson published the first 14 points of US foreign policy. So when I looked at this, I saw it was a very large document, and reading it is very difficult to try and understand what the core pillars of our foreign policy is. Honorable Speaker, foreign policy is simply a set of principles, objectives, that will guide the conduct of a state in terms of relations with other states or with other organizations, meaning at bilateral level or multilateral level. So my proposal would be, we need to do a bit of refinement. It is a very lengthy document, but if you look at it keenly, the core, the key objective of our foreign policy is basically the pursuit, protection, and promotion of the national interest. Be that interest could be military interest, it could be economic interest, it could be political interest. But that is the overarching objective. And if you read this document, you clearly see what you may call the traditional values that have anchored our policy from independence. And those traditional values are reciprocity, non-alignment, Pan-Africanism, non-interference, and good neighborliness. But modern foreign policy has adopted, if you study what other countries have adopted new non-traditional values and principles upon which they anchor their foreign policy. For example, I'll just give a few examples. Today, countries anchor their foreign policy on certain values like democracy. You are not going to associate with pariah states that kill their citizens, stifle democracy, don't respect human rights, don't respect the rule of law, countries that don't pursue peace and peaceful resolution of conflicts, that are always at war, countries that dismember our environment, countries that don't respect international law and international decisions, and countries that undermine multilateralism. Why am I saying this? Our foreign policy should not just set the objective, which is the promotion, protection, and pursuit of national interest. It must set a very clear light. What is our value system as a country? What is it that we want to promote in relations that we have with other countries and other organizations? So I think we need that clarity in this sessional paper. We must clearly state what the objective is and what the values are. Secondly, I want to make some comments just to observe what is happening around lately in our country. Number one, Nairobi is supposed to be a diplomatic hub. We host a lot of international organizations. But there's a trend where we are not respecting what are called diplomatic privileges and immunities for the international organizations that we host. In particular, there's the question of tax. A lot of these international organizations, by tradition, if you look at the Vienna Convention on diplomatic immunities and privileges, extend certain privileges to these organizations. Because the money that they bring into this country is collected from several countries, tax exemption is granted. Today, we are harassing a lot of international organizations. Some are just established by African countries, others are international, more global in nature. Yet, we are bringing in a lot of conditionalities around them. That is making Nairobi not attractive to host international organizations. And I think Ministry of Foreign Affairs should get its hands on this. These international organizations not only bring multiculturalism in Kenya and create Nairobi as a good center for people of the world to come and do work, but they bring jobs and money. We get more out of hosting them than tax collections from members of staff, where we even harass members of staff in those organizations from Kenya. We insist on taxing them. But when you tax them, it is the organization that will compensate them for the tax. And if other countries are putting their money in that organization, they don't want to be paying your tax. So I think there's a lot of work we need to do, Foreign Affairs needs to do, to maintain the status of Nairobi as a diplomatic hub. Secondly, I'm a little disappointed that Ministry of Foreign Affairs has literally remained mute on the impact of Trump-related policies on our diaspora. Today, Kenyans are being harassed in United States of America. Others are facing deportation. Others are hiding in churches. They don't even go to pray for fear of deportation. I've not heard any comments. I've not heard any interventions. I've not heard any, but when you read this, there's a lot of talk about diaspora. You will see on the element of diaspora, we are talking about Kenyans who are outside sending money. We are not talking about other people who could become Kenyans, who are also Kenyan diaspora. This is what we talked earlier when we were discussing the issue of the Wapare, the right of return. Those people in the Caribbean, in America, in Latin America, who have ancestry in Kenya, who left here as slaves, whose descendants left here, whose ancestors left here as slaves. It is now recognized under international law, including agreements signed at the AU, that we should give them a right of return if they so wish to become citizens. So I think this paper, when dealing with diaspora diplomacy, should extend to that particular angle. And finally, I just want to associate with what my good brother, Honorable Oundo, said. Good diplomacy requires competent diplomats. I think we are beginning to undermine that very much. There's a problem. Even when we were in the Grand Coalition, we did agree with the Ambassador Mudhaura that we will never dilute the presence of career diplomats in our foreign service. There's a lot of political convenience today where we are putting people who are not qualified to handle even stations that require highly trained diplomats with the necessary sophistications and domain knowledge of what goes on there. So I think this policy should come also with clear indication that foreign service or certain foreign stations shall be reserved for career diplomats or people who truly, truly meet the qualifications. Because you have no point sending somebody to a station that is so important, but without the necessary qualifications or domain knowledge. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.